Every fall, somebody walks into a gun shop and trades away a rifle that shoots perfectly. His shoulder just stopped agreeing with it, and the rifle the counter hands him next is lighter, more expensive, and going to hurt worse. $4,000 against 600. 12.0 foot-pounds against 10.9. Same cartridge, same load. The difference is weight. Subscribe. I read the spec sheet so you don't have to. Here is the ruler. 2 calculated numbers, recoil energy and recoil velocity, at real scoped weight, plus anti-recoil hardware you can verify in a catalog. Marketing claims count for nothing. 6 rifles, worst to best. 6th place, the Sako 90 Quest. This is the best-built rifle in this video and the worst rifle in this video, and both of those are true at the same time. The stock is carbon, the comb rises, the length of pull adjusts, the trigger breaks at any of 5 weights you choose. Hand 100 hunters this rifle and the CVA and ask which is the better machine, and you get 100 votes for Sako. I have stood behind enough counters to know how that conversation goes. The customer picks it up, the lightness surprises him, and he says it feels like a real mountain rifle. He means that as a compliment. For this buyer, it is not a compliment. 3 kilos bare, which is 6.6 pounds. Put a scope and rings on it and you are carrying 8.6 pounds. That is the lightest rifle in this video by close to a full pound, and lightness is the exact thing you are trying to escape. Here is what it costs. 6.5 Creedmoor, 140 grain bullet leaving the muzzle at 2,700 feet per second, in a rifle weighing 8.6 pounds scoped. Free recoil energy works out to 12.0 foot-pounds. Free recoil velocity works out to 9.5 feet per second. Both of those are the highest 6.5 Creedmoor numbers of any rifle in this ranking. Step up to 300 Winchester Magnum, which Sako will happily sell you in this rifle, and the calculation runs to 28.6 foot-pounds and 14.6 feet per second. That is the worst single number generated anywhere in this video. Say where those numbers come from because it matters. These are free recoil calculations, not instrumented measurements pulled off a test rig. The formula treats the rifle as a rigid body and takes 4 inputs: bullet weight, powder charge, muzzle velocity, and rifle weight. Nobody strapped a sensor to a shoulder to produce them. What the calculation is good for is comparison, because every rifle here runs through the same formula with the same kind of inputs, and that is what makes the order defensible even when the absolute figure is an approximation. The Quest does carry a threaded muzzle, 5/8 by 24, and that thread is a real attribute. A suppressor is the largest recoil reduction a hunter can bolt onto a rifle, and it adds weight at the far end of the barrel, which is exactly where weight helps a shoulder. The thread is what a catalog can verify. What you hang on it after that is your business, and it is not this video. There is no factory break on the Quest. Sako describes the stock construction as absorbing recoil, and that is the company describing its own product. I have not found an independent test that puts a number on it, so it earns this rifle nothing here. Price is around $3,999. $4,000 to feel more kick than a rifle costing a sixth of that. That is not a failure of Sako's engineering. That is what happens when you buy a rifle built around a different problem than the one you have. 5th place. The Springfield Armory Model 2020 Waypoint. The Waypoint has the same disease as the Sako, and it treats the symptoms better. Springfield's own spec sheet lists this rifle between 6 pounds 12 ounces and 7 pounds 14 ounces depending on configuration, and the carbon fiber barrel versions come in under 6 3/4 pounds bare. That is a rifle engineered on purpose to be carried a long way by somebody who does not want to feel it on the walk-in. Every ounce they removed is an ounce your shoulder absorbs at the shot. In the heavier configuration, call it 9.5 pounds scoped, 6.5 Creedmoor with the same 140 grain load calculates to 10.9 foot-pounds and 8.6 feet per second. Take the light carbon version instead, drop to roughly 8.6 pounds scoped, and the same round in the same rifle family climbs to 12.0 foot-pounds. Same cartridge, same bullet, same powder. The only variable that moved was weight, and it moved the number by 10%. So why does it beat the Sako? Because Springfield put hardware on it that fights back. There is a removable SA radial muzzle brake threaded on at 5/8 by 24, and it comes on the rifle, not in a catalog of accessories. Springfield says the brake reduces recoil by directing gases outward. They do not publish a percentage, which I will note is more restrained than most of this industry gets. A published review from Wayne Van Zwol called it very effective at reducing recoil, and that assessment is qualitative, with no number attached, so treat it as a working impression rather than a measurement. There is a 1-inch Patchmare decelerator on the back of it, which is a known quantity and has been for decades. There is an AG Composites carbon stock, available with a 3-axis adjustable comb, and comb height is not a comfort feature on a rifle like this. A stock that does not line your eye up with the scope makes you crawl the comb, and crawling the comb puts your face somewhere it should not be when the rifle moves. Fit is recoil management. It just does not show up in the arithmetic. Cartridge options work in your favor here too. 6mm Creedmoor, 6.5 Creedmoor, 308 Winchester. Those are all serious deer cartridges, and none of them is a Punisher. Street price is around $1,499 for the carbon 6.5 Creedmoor, against a manufacturer's suggested price that runs from $1,699 up to $2,399 depending on how you build it. Here is the part I am not going to skip. The brake that earns the waypoint this position also does something to you, and we are coming back to it later in this video with published numbers, because it is the single most oversold piece of equipment in this entire category. 4th place, the CVA Cascade XT. Same brake, same threads, same adjustable comb, more weight, less than half the money. The Cascade XT runs a factory radial brake and a 5/8 by 24 muzzle thread, and the comb adjusts with a screw. On paper, that is the Waypoint's toolkit. The difference is that CVA never tried to make this thing light. The XT wears a heavier contour barrel and comes in around 7.5 pounds bare, which puts it at roughly 9.5 pounds scoped. In this video, that is a feature. 6.5 Creedmoor at 9.5 pounds calculates to 10.9 foot-pounds and 8.6 feet per second, which ties the heavier Waypoint exactly and beats the Sako by a full foot-pound with the identical round. Then there is the load that makes this rifle interesting for the buyer this video is about. 350 Legend, 180 grain bullet at 2100 feet per second, in that same 9.5 pound rifle, 9.0 foot-pounds, 7.8 feet per second. That is straight wall cartridge country. It is legal deer medicine across a lot of the Midwest, and it is one of the 2 softest numbers in this entire ranking. CVA also offers the XT in 243 Winchester, 6.5 Creedmoor, and 7mm 08. There is no bad choice in that list for a shoulder, so why is it 4th and not higher? 2 reasons, and I am giving you both. First, CVA does not name a recoil damping system on this rifle. There is a pad. It is a pad. Nobody at CVA is actually claiming it does anything special, and I am not going to invent a claim they never made. The Waypoint has a Patchmare on it, and the 2 rifles above this one have engineered systems, and that gap is real. Second, the fit and finish is not in the same conversation as the Sako or the Springfield, and the hunting community reports that pattern consistently, with variation from rifle to rifle. That is community sentiment, not a defect rate, and I want it in the right box. Plenty of people who bought one are perfectly happy with it and shoot it well. Sentiment is not a test result. But when I am ordering this ranking and 2 rifles are otherwise close, the one people report inconsistency on does not get the benefit of the doubt. Street price sits around $630 for the 350 Legend and around $710 for the larger chamberings, against a suggested price near $825. While we are here, one rifle that did not make this list and probably should have, on reputation alone. The Howa 1500 Superlight is a well-regarded rifle at a fair price, and it is chambered in everything you would want. It weighs 4.9 pounds bare. Not scoped. Bare. For a hunter with a good shoulder, that is a wonderful thing to carry up a mountain. For the hunter this video is about, it is the worst possible answer, and it fails on the one axis that decides this ranking. That is not a knock on Howa. It is the whole point of the ruler. 3rd place, the Browning BAR MK3. Now the physics changes and the arithmetic stops telling the whole story. Everything above this point is a bolt action. A bolt action is a closed system, so when the round goes off, essentially all of that impulse arrives at your shoulder in one event. The free recoil formula models that reasonably well. The BAR is a gas-operated semi-automatic with a short-stroke piston and a 7-lug rotating bolt, and that means part of the energy goes into cycling the action. The bolt travels, the spring compresses. The impulse gets spread across a longer window of time before it actually finishes arriving at you. Your shoulder does not experience foot-pounds. It experiences a rate. Same total energy delivered slower is a push instead of a hit, and published reviews of the BAR describe it in exactly those terms, as a shove rather than a strike. Those are impressions from writers who shot the rifle, not instrumented readings, and I am labeling them that way on purpose. The calculated numbers are excellent regardless. 243 Winchester, a 100-grain bullet at 2,960 feet per second in a rifle running roughly 9.4 pounds scoped. 8.4 foot-pounds of recoil energy, 7.6 feet per second of recoil velocity. Those are the lowest numbers in this video, full stop, and that is before you account for the gas system spreading the impulse. Browning also chambers the MK3 and 7mm 08, which is arguably the most efficient deer cartridge ever built for people who do not enjoy being hit. The stock carries Browning's Inflex pad, which uses internal ribs designed to move the comb down and away from your face under recoil rather than into it. Weight runs from about 6.6 pounds for the short-barreled detachable magazine version up to 7.5 pounds for the 22-inch walnut guns. Take the heavier one. In this video, you always take the heavier one. Street prices run from about $999 up to roughly $1,450, against suggested prices between $1,440 and $1,700. What holds it at third is what it does not have. The standard MK3 does not come with a factory brake and generally does not come with a threaded muzzle, so 2 of the 6 design attributes that qualify a rifle for this list are simply absent, and the stock does not adjust. No comb adjustment, no length of pull spacers, no shim kit. You get Browning's idea of where your face goes, and if your build does not match Browning's idea, there is no factory answer for that. One more thing worth saying here, since somebody is going to ask why this list has 6 rifles instead of 10. 6 is how many gun families cleared the BAR. The requirement was at least 2 anti-recoil design features you can point to in a current catalog, in a rifle sold new for deer in 2026, from a maker not already covered in earlier videos on this channel. Plenty of good rifles missed a single shot. Henry is a lovely thing that does nothing to help a shoulder. The Thompson Center compass is not confirmable in a current catalog. Kimber, Christensen, Fierce, and Seekins mostly build the opposite of what this buyer needs, which is to say they build light. 6 is not a round number chosen for a title. 6 is what survived. Second place, the Benelli R1. This is the most sophisticated answer to this problem that anybody currently sells, and it does not win. And the reason it does not win is the reason this channel exists. The R1 runs Benelli's Argo gas system, auto-regulating gas-operated, with a 3-lug rotating bolt. Same principle as the Browning and executed with more hardware behind it. On top of that, it wears ComfortTech, which is a stock system built around a gel insert in the recoil pad and a shim kit that lets you change drop and cast, plus length of pull that adjusts across 3 positions from 13 7/8 inches out to 14 3/4. That is the most adjustment of any rifle in this ranking that is not a $4,000 Sako. Benelli's marketing says the Argo system reduces felt recoil by nearly 50% compared to bolt actions in the same calibers, and says separately that ComfortTech reduces felt recoil by as much as 48% over the competition. Those are Benelli's words about Benelli's product. I could not find an independent instrumented measurement confirming either figure, and I looked. So those percentages sit in the claim box and they earn this rifle exactly 0 positions in this ranking. Rifle number 1 gets held to the same standard in a minute, and you are going to see me do it. What does exist is a published comparison test of 30-06 rifles in which the R1 was rated the softest shooting of the group, without a break and without a can on the threaded muzzle. That is a real assessment from people who shot real rifles, and it is still a qualitative impression with no number behind it. It supports the R1, it does not measure it. Now the number that keeps it at second. 308 Winchester, 150 grain bullet at 2,820 feet per second, in an R1 running about 9.4 pounds scoped, 13.8 foot-pounds, 9.7 feet per second. That is the second worst calculated energy figure in this entire video, beaten only by the Sako. And the reason is not the rifle's fault, it is the catalog. Benelli does not chamber the R1 in 6.5 Creedmoor. Your options for deer are 308 Winchester and 30-06. Both are fine cartridges and both are more cartridge than a shoulder needs at deer ranges. The gas system is genuinely clawing that number back in a way the formula cannot see, and I believe it does. I just cannot show you a measurement of it, and this ranking runs on what I can show you. The R1 is threaded at 5/8 by 24 on current versions. Benelli backs it with a 10-year limited warranty, which is the longest coverage on this list. Street price is roughly $1,700, with market averages tracking a little under $1,500. Before the winter, the block this entire video is built on. Take one cartridge and hold it completely still. 6.5 Creedmoor, 140 grain bullet, 2,700 feet per second at the muzzle. Do not change the bullet, do not change the powder, do not change the barrel length. Change only the weight of the rifle it is fired from. Sako 90 Quest at 8.6 pounds scoped, 12.0 foot-pounds of energy, 9.5 feet per second of velocity. Springfield Waypoint at 9.5 pounds scoped, 10.9 foot-pounds, 8.6 feet per second. 9/10 of a pound of rifle, 10% of your recoil. Every single time you pull the trigger for as long as you own the rifle. This is not a fringe finding. American Hunter has published the general rule that a 6.5-pound ultralight rifle produces roughly 20 to 25% more felt recoil than an 8.5-pound rifle firing the exact same load. Outdoor Life ran the same comparison with a 178 grain 308 load and found it exceeding 19 foot-pounds in a 7-pound rifle against about 15 foot-pounds in an 8-pound rifle. Different riders, different loads, same direction, every time. And here is the part the gun industry has no incentive to tell you. Every marketing dollar in hunting rifles for the last 15 years has gone into removing weight. Carbon barrels, carbon stocks, skeletonized bolt handles, fluting titanium actions. Light is sold to you as an unqualified virtue, as though there is no other side to the ledger. There is another side to the ledger, and if your shoulder is the reason you are watching this video, you are standing on it. The lightest rifle in the store is built for a hunter who is not you. Now the part that connects a sore shoulder to a missed animal, without me pretending to be a doctor, because I am not one, and this video will not go anywhere near that. A study published in the journal Human Factors in 2017 looked at shooter performance across different recoil conditions and found that accuracy decreased as the energy associated with firing increased. That is a peer-reviewed finding with a date and named authors on it. It says nothing about your shoulder, your surgery, or your pain. It says that as recoil energy goes up, shot placement gets worse, which means recoil is not a comfort question, it is an accuracy question, and accuracy is the only thing that matters when an animal is standing there. That brings us to the muzzle brake, which is where I have to be straight with you because a brake is on 2 of the rifles in this list, and I put both of them in the top 5 partly because of it. A brake works. General published references put recoil reduction from a brake or a suppressor between 30 and 50%. That is a large number, and it is real, and it is why the Waypoint and the Cascade sit where they sit. Here is what it costs. A brake does not delete gas, it redirects it, and a lot of it comes back toward your face and your ears. Published measurement of a .30 caliber rifle fitted with a muzzle brake recorded peak levels above 175 decibels. The threshold for immediate hearing damage is 140. Decibels are logarithmic, which means the gap between those two numbers is not a gap, it is a chasm, and hearing loss does not heal. You do not get it back, so this is a trade, not a free upgrade. You are moving damage from a joint that already hurts to a system that will not recover. If you run a brake, you run hearing protection every single time, including on the shot at the animal. That threaded muzzle on 4 of the 6 rifles here exists for a reason, and quieter options exist that reduce recoil and sound at the same time. What is legal where you live is a separate conversation, and this channel has already had it. If this is the kind of thing you want more of, subscribe. I do not take money from gun companies, and there are no affiliate links under this video, which means when I tell you the $800 rifle beats the $4,000 one, nobody paid for that sentence and nobody could have. Reading spec sheets that customers never see was my job for years. It is the only real qualification I have, and it is the whole product here. First place. The Franchi Momentum Elite. The Elite is the only rifle in this video where every anti-recoil feature is a thing you can point to in a catalog, and none of the reasons it wins depend on believing an advertisement. Factory radial brake, removable, threaded 5/8 by 24. Adjustable comb on the Elite version, length of pull spacers included. A twin shock absorber recoil pad with a gel insert, and a chambering list that reads like it was written for this exact buyer. 6.5 Creedmoor, 243 Winchester, 7mm 08, and 350 Legend. 4 legitimate deer cartridges, all of them soft. Weight comes in around 7 pounds bare, roughly 9 pounds scoped. 6.5 Creedmoor at that weight calculates to 11.5 foot-pounds and 9.1 feet per second. And now I am going to do to Franchi what I did to Benelli, because otherwise this ruler is worthless. Franchi says the TSA pad reduces felt recoil by up to 50% and also reduces flinching. That is the manufacturer's claim about the manufacturer's product. There is no independent instrumented measurement of it that I could find, and it earns this rifle nothing. The pad counts here because it exists on the rifle, not because of the number Franchi puts next to it. Same rule that cost Benelli the top spot, applied to the winner. And here is the other thing I owe you, because you can do the arithmetic yourself. 11.5 foot-pounds is not the lowest 6.5 Creedmoor number in this video. The Cascade XT and the heavier Waypoint both calculate to 10.9 with the identical load. The winner of this ranking does not post the best number, 0.6 of a foot-pound. That is the gap, and no human shoulder on Earth has ever actually detected 0.6 of a foot-pound. What a shoulder does detect is a brake plus a gel pad, plus a comb that puts your eye where it belongs, plus a stock length that fits your arms, all on the same rifle from the factory, verified in a catalog. Nothing else on this list assembles all of that in one gun. That is what wins it, and the 0.6 is the honest price of saying so. The money finishes the argument. Street price runs around $829 against a suggested price near $1,099, backed by a 7-year warranty. The Benelli sitting behind it is roughly $1,700. You are looking at $870 of difference, and the cheaper rifle is the one with more anti-recoil hardware you can verify. The honest case for the Benelli, because there is one, and I would sell it to the right customer without hesitating. If your shoulder problem is about the sharpness of the hit rather than the total energy, the gas gun is the better tool and the formula does not capture that. Spreading impulse over time is a real mechanism, not a marketing story. The R1 has more stock adjustment than the Franchi. It has a 10-year warranty against a 7. It is built to a level of finish the Franchi does not reach. And a follow-up shot from a semi-automatic does not require you to work a bolt against a shoulder that already objected to the first one. Buy the Benelli if the money is not the constraint, and the shape of the impulse is what hurts you. Buy the Franchi if you want the most verified recoil hardware per dollar that anyone currently sells, which for most people watching this is the correct answer. And do not buy the Sako for this job. It is the finest rifle in this video. It is also 8.6 pounds scoped, $4,000, and the hardest kicking gun here with the same round in the chamber as the $800 winner. Light is a virtue. It is somebody else's virtue. Weight is free recoil reduction and it costs nothing. Works on every cartridge, never wears out, and no company advertises it, because nobody has ever figured out how to charge you for the ounces they did not remove.